This is the Two Bald Guys Sports Podcast. Bald heads, bold takes. Now, here are your hosts, Adam and Tony.
Welcome back. I'm Adam.
I'm Tony.
This is the Two Bald Guys Sports Podcast. Before we get started in the NFL Draft, I just want to remind everybody about our partnership with Happy Nuts. A lot of people that listen got a bunch of great stuff from them. Keep doing it. It's been great. We enjoy their stuff. Just real quick, Tony, tell them the code for that.
Two Bald Guys 20 at checkout for Happy Nuts products will get you 20% off of that stuff. And they have so many great products. Deodorant. I use the deodorant almost every day. I love it. They have creams. They have sprays for your parts. Like, take care of yourself, man. And there's some stuff on there for ladies too. Your ladies or your spouse or your partner will appreciate it. 20% off Two Bald Guys 20.
There we go. Like I said, lots of good stuff. Get nothing but good things to say about them. Plus, their marketing is pretty funny too. So,
yes.
Go from Happy Nuts into the NFL Draft, and listen, there's a lot of good things. But we'll start with a nutty stat here. I don't know if you knew this, but of all the Heisman finalists that have ever happened, I don't know how long back the Heisman goes. I didn't do my research.
Back a long ways. Yeah.
But it's been a long time. And sometimes there's, 3 finalists. Sometimes there's 5. There's never been a Heisman finalist not to get drafted up until this year. So every player that has been a Heisman finalist has been drafted.
Okay.
Do you know who the one was this year that did not get drafted? Heisman finalist from this year that did not get drafted.
Only because it's been popping up a lot on social media. It's Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt. I guess I didn't put the connection together because I've been seeing a ton of stuff about him not getting drafted, but I didn't put it together that he was in the running for the Heisman. And I didn't know that there hasn't been another Heisman finalist that hasn't been drafted. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Diego Pavia. Now, there was, some, he doesn't lack for confidence. That is for sure.
No.
Lots of confidence in that guy. And, he did a lot of good things for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt became, relevant with him there. He played really, really well. But, sometimes his play was a little reckless and it caused, some problems for Vanderbilt. But, you can't, listen, like him, don't like him. He played really, really well for Vanderbilt, but he was supposed, I can't remember the exact size, that he was listed, the height, but his height came in about 3 or 4 inches shorter than it was listed, with Vanderbilt. So I think that might have been a problem. Do you think his attitude had a little bit of a problem for him not getting drafted?
Well, it does make you wonder because his play on the field, his height is somewhat of an issue, but guys like Doug Flutie were not very tall. Drew Brees is maybe getting to 6 foot. But there's been other guys that haven't been that tall. I don't think Russell Wilson's that tall. So there's guys out there that have done just fine in the NFL, not being super tall. But you're right. I think after he did not win the Heisman, his attitude came out a little bit. And I think you're still seeing a little bit of that right now. So I hate to think that was the one thing that did it, but I can't think of any other reason because I think he's good enough that somebody might take a shot at him. But his attitude sometimes, NFL, they don't need that problem. They don't need to deal with that stuff. I mean, there's grown men out there. They're focused on winning football games. You're past college age, grow up, take your, whatever happened with the Heisman, just move on. And he probably would have got drafted, but I think you're right. I think his attitude probably cost him a draft pick.
And listen, not that it's right, not that anybody should have that attitude or and the confidence thing is one thing, but he trashed,
right.
The Heisman, all that stuff after he didn't win and all this good stuff. You can get away with that if you're the number 1 pick in the draft.
If you
not that you're that talent. If you're that talent, but the thing is, if you're a backup guy, which I think right now he's a backup guy. Listen, we've seen guys become starters in the NFL that have probably had less of a career than he did, right? So I'm not going to say he could never be a starting quarterback in the NFL, but right now, let's be honest, he's a second string at best, third stringer probably, practice squad guy.
Yeah.
Right now, you don't need that problem. And now the Ravens invited him to camp, but they didn't sign him. They just invited him to camp, I think. If they signed him, then maybe I'm wrong, but I know they invited him to camp. So maybe, they're going to be like, hey, listen, but, you get a guy there. Lamar never said the things Pavi did, but Lamar is definitely not lacking in confidence either. So maybe they think that could be a good fit with, him navigating through maybe some of the NFL stuff. But if you're a top guy, they can get around some of that stuff. But when you're not top guy, they don't need that stuff with backups. But so I think that is. But, Pavia was a quarterback that wasn't drafted. There was a bunch that were drafted. And we'll start again. We've talked about this ad nauseum, but your Oakland Raiders got their guy. They didn't make it in, they didn't trade down. They just went ahead and got Fernando Mendoza, and he looks like he's going to be the number one. Like we said, how are they going to handle that, with Kirk Cousins, stuff like that. They got the quarterback that they needed. I think they had enough, they ended up with 10 draft picks. They got a safety out of Arizona, a lot of defensive guys, the edge guy, cornerback guy, another safety, another cornerback guy, and a defensive tackle. Now the defensive tackle is real late. Got a running back out of Arkansas. Hey, listen, you never know. Getting those running backs, they got him in the 4th round to back up, Ashton Jeanty there. That's not a problem there. I don't think that could be a good, pickup there. I don't know the guy very well, but out of Arkansas. Wide receiver from Oregon, you got to be kind of happy with what the Raiders did. And it looks like they are trying to address the needs that they had. So coming out of the draft, listen, we'll talk about this a little bit. Mel Kiper has his grades for the draft. I don't want you to necessarily grade it, but are you happy with what the Raiders did with this draft?
Yeah, the Raiders have in the past have had issues in the draft, doing weird things, kind of going off the radar a little bit, or what everyone thought they were going to do. This year, they stuck to everybody knew or expected them to take Mendoza as the quarterback first pick, and they did that. And I think that I don't think that was there's nothing else they could have done at that point. Now, would it have surprised me if they went some random other place? I don't know, but they did what they're supposed to do there. And like you said, they got some guys to help on the offensive line. They got some defensive help, especially in the secondary, which they really needed. And if you remember, they traded for some guys, a defensive guy, and they traded for Nakobe Dean from the Eagles, at linebacker. He's going to be really solid. Still got Max Crosby on the line there, and they beefed up that offensive line with the guy from the Lindenbaum from the Ravens, who's an All-Pro at center, and then they got running back from Arkansas. So yeah, I hadn't really heard much of him at all either, but watching draft stuff, his name popped up there a couple of times, and I think that's a good pick in the 4th round. He's a 1,000-yard rusher for Arkansas. So you mentioned this, I think the last podcast is, it's not those, we're not in the Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith guys getting 30 carries a game type of football anymore. It's, you got your main guy, and then you have another guy to help take some of that carries off of the main guy. So I think Jeanty can be the main guy, but then this Washington guy can take some of those carries, off of him when they need it, and he can still be productive. Because if you they looked at the Seahawks, and they looked at these teams throughout the last few years that have been successful, and they have a number one guy, and then they have their second guy who is really good as well, and he can take some of those carries and take a little bit of beating off the number one guy. So I like that pick out of Arkansas, Mike Washington Jr. So yeah, I think what the Raiders did is that the wide receiver room is still a little iffy. I think Trey Tucker's the number one guy at wide receiver right now, and I'm not knocking Trey Tucker, but he doesn't pop off the page as a number one guy to me on a whole lot of other teams other than maybe the Raiders. So I think wide receivers may be a question mark, but tight ends locked in. They're building that offensive line, getting help on defense, and Mendoza's going to sit behind Cousins, and we'll see what happens. And I didn't know this, but Cousins and the head coach Kubiak, they worked together in Minnesota, and Cousins had a really good year under him, so I'm kind of happy about that as well. So Mel Kiper gives the Raiders an A. I'll stick with that A. I think it's solid. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Listen, it's you never know what those grades are going to be, because you got to get a couple years out. Because I was listening to, we mentioned it a lot, the afternoon radio, sports radio, they're on the Fan now down here, and they were talking about these grades, how they're so. Somebody gave the grade, and this has been a while ago with the Seahawks when they drafted Russell Wilson and Bobby Jones, I think maybe, and another guy. Maybe it wasn't Bobby Jones, but it was a defensive guy, maybe two defensive guys, and Russell Wilson graded it as an F draft. Well, those three guys helped them win a Super Bowl and get back to another Super Bowl. So, these grades,
Yeah,
it should be more like in 5 years we come back and we grade them, right? Because then you have, that body of work to go by, and go with it. But, you still can come out of the draft feeling good, not feeling good. Obviously we've talked about this a lot. People listen, I'm a Bears fan. They went out and got a safety with the first pick out of Oregon. Supposedly it was the top safety in the draft. They were farther back in the first round because, we beat the Packers in the playoffs. So we made, to the NFC divisional round, just in case my son's listening to me right now.
He will.
So sometimes, the safeties aren't really highly regarded, the top of the draft. So, the Bears got a safety. The second pick was the center out of Iowa.
That's a good pick. I like that.
I like that, because, you want linemen, you go to Iowa, you go to Penn State, you go to some of these teams like that, right? Those are the
Iowa.
the
I think Iowa won the award for best offensive line in the country, I believe. I'm pretty sure I heard that. So anybody from Iowa, a lineman, you're in good shape.
Right. I mean, they did trade for Garrett Bradbury, the guy from, I think, the Patriots, who's, the center, to get the guy. But I think this guy is supposed to be. They had a need. They addressed it. Now, their third round pick was a tight end. I'm not really sure why they went back to a tight end because, Colson Loveland was amazing last year. I think I was high on him being a Michigan fan, but I think even he exceeded my expectations. But then they have Cole Kmet as their backup tight end, so I don't really understand that. But then they picked a receiver from LSU. You have to look into more than that. I kind of like our draft too. Listen, we need to address the defense. I wouldn't mind still maybe trying to find somebody out there via free agency or a trade or something. But I think the Bears did a good job too. I mean, Kiper, like we said, for what it's worth, graded him a B. I'm pretty happy. I think both of our teams, at least yours this year and the Bears the past 2 years, have listen, these are our needs. Let's go get our needs instead of just necessarily drafting the best guy available. And I think they've done that. So,
yeah, I liked your Bears pick as well. I think they address, like you said, they address the needs. When you look at the Bears, they don't really have like that one guy that you're just like, oh my gosh, that's going to be like the next Walter Payton or something like that. But I don't see that a lot in this draft at all. I don't look at this draft and go, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what this guy does. Am I curious to see what Mendoza does? Yeah, but only because he's on my Raiders. Like, I really don't look up and down this draft and see anybody really sticking out. Jeremiah Love with the Cardinals. Carson Beck went to the Cardinals as well. So, those were a couple of surprises there. Ty Simpson going as high as he did to back up Matt Stafford out there with the Rams. So, it's interesting you mentioned we need to look several years down the road and grade these teams. Then, just real quick, I saw this online. I haven't verified all of it. I know several of these are accurate, though, but someone posted that a reminder that whoever gets drafted immediately after Fernando Mendoza will be guaranteed Hall of Famer. So in 2002, the Raiders picked Napoleon Harris. The next pick after Napoleon Harris was Ed Reed. He turned out to be okay.
Yeah, he was okay.
In 2004, I know this is true for sure. Robert Gallery, offensive lineman. He was really good in college. I think he went to Iowa, actually.
He went to Iowa, yep. Mm-hmm.
The next pick after Robert Gallery, Larry Fitzgerald. Decent player there as well.
Yeah, he was okay.
Yeah, 05. All right. Fabian Washington was a defensive back out of Nebraska. He was a good player. But the next pick was Aaron Rodgers.
Oh.
And then 07, we all know they took Jamarcus Russell, right? Right after Jamarcus Russell. I might have to look this one up because I can't believe this one. But the next pick was Calvin Johnson, Megatron. And then
I think he's in the Hall of Fame. But oh my God,
2010.
Are you going to keep going? Okay.
Oh, it doesn't. Yeah, there's two more. They traded away their pick to New England. New England picks up Gronk. And then in 2016, the Raiders draft Jihad Ward, and the next pick was Derrick Henry. So in the early 2000s, 02 to 07, they could have had Aaron Rodgers, Larry Fitzgerald, Calvin Johnson, and Ed Reed. Stop it.
Now, okay, I like what you're saying there, but had they got at least two of those guys, they would have been drafting where they were drafted. But
exactly. Yeah.
Listen, we talk about the what ifs, and we've talked about it many times with the Bears about drafting, Mitch Trubisky in front of Pat Mahomes, and again, the early part of Deshaun Watson. Listen, I'm glad the Bears did not have Deshaun Watson, and we're not condoning anything he's done, anything like that. I think he's proved himself who he is. But that's not even close to what you just read off. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like that is ridiculous. But, there's some in here, with these picks in this first round, like I said, me and you, we know football, but we don't get into the ins and outs, especially with the linemen. It's tough for us. We don't really analyze that stuff. But I like the Cardinals taking Jeremiah Love. I think Jeremiah Love is going to be really, really good. And I heard a stat about Jeremiah Love. He was really, really good. The last 2 years, he was really good. You would say he was arguably the best running back in the college football over those 2 years. Obviously, Ashton Jeanty, the 1 year over him. But over those 2 years, Jeremiah Love is probably the best running back. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Years has been fantastic.
And those 2 years, he had less carries than Ashton Jeanty had in his senior year.
Wow.
So now I know he was dinged up a little bit, but that right there to me is like, listen, not a lot of wear and tear on that guy.
Right.
They had another guy because they had a second running back. Well, at least he was projected to go in the first round. I don't know if you answered it. Yeah, Jadarian Price went number 32 first round. He was a backup running back at Notre Dame. So you had two running backs. Notre Dame kind of went a little bit like the NFL model is doing now, where they have that two-headed monster there. But Jeremiah Love was definitely the front part of that thing. Listen, I don't know if the Cardinals will be good for him because the Cardinals have been bad. But, hey, that's where – listen, the Cardinals needed a lot. But they needed somebody that could make that team a little bit exciting. And I think Love could do it. Like, I think Love is more set up to be better in the NFL than Jeanty just because of his size. Like, I thought Jeanty was amazing in college, and I think he could be really good with the Raiders. But you can't just line Jeanty up in the NFL and have him run between the tackles. You just can't. No. Like, you got to give him out in space. You got to use him kind of like the Falcons are using Bijan, where they're using him in the passing game. They're getting him outside, use his speed, use his shiftiness, and he could be really good. But Jeremiah Love, I think that's a really, really good pick. The Titans took, Carnell Tate, hate Ohio State, but that's a good pick. Arvell Reese went to the Giants. The one that slipped, though, was Ruben Bain Jr., the edge from Miami. Bad dude. I mean, not a bad person, just a bad dude.
Nasty player.
And he slipped down, and Miami took him. He gets to stay in Miami. Or not Miami took him. I'm sorry, Tampa took him. He gets to stay in Florida. That's what I meant to say. Right before the draft came out, it was said that he was driving when they got in a wreck, and unfortunately somebody passed away. Now, was he negligent in that? Was he? There's no criminal charges for it, so I don't know if he was, under the influence, anything like that. It doesn't say anything about that he was trying to hide it or anything like that. The news just came out because things come out before the draft all the time, right? Do you think that, unfortunately, and we're not, I don't know the ins and outs of it, so I'm not trying to say was he right or wrong, and it's unfortunate somebody passed away, but do you think that had anything to do with him dropping a little bit?
I think he was projected top 10. He went 15th. I mean, I'm not 100% sure it did. I think if he would have fell maybe further, especially if he would have fell like out of the first round, which I don't think was going to happen. But I don't know. It's hard to say that dropped him at all. But if you look at the teams that could have taken him, they just went a different direction. I mean, so I don't like the Cardinals could have taken him, but they went with a running back there. But look at I'm just looking at Tampa's draft picks right now. I think they really addressed a lot of weak spots, and they have some good picks. Like Ruben Bain, they got Josiah Trotter, which I think is related to Jeremiah Trotter, who used to play for the Eagles. Keontae Scott out of Miami. They got some good picks. But yeah, Ruben Bain dropping 6, 7, 8 spots, whatever it was. Surprising, yes, but I don't know if that had anything to do with it, really. I mean, he's going to Tampa. He's going to stay home state here, so I'm going to probably say no. I just think that other teams just decided to go a different direction than maybe Mel Kiper thought so. So sometimes Mel's not right. He's pretty close, but this time he's a little off.
Yeah, he's close on some things, and other times it's not so much. But yeah, I mean, listen, I think Tampa's ecstatic to get him. I'll tell you who had a good draft, and then we'll get to was surprisingly the Jets. The Jets, a lot of people are saying, they get the Texas Tech, edge David Bailey in there in the first round. They also get the tight end from Oregon, which was one of the top tight ends, and then also they get Omar Cooper Jr., who I don't know, he played pretty well for Indiana.
Decent.
So they had 3 first round picks, and I think they crushed all of them. Like, to get Omar Cooper Jr. there at the end of the first round, I think that's huge for them. So, like I know that we trust me and you are one of the first ones to bag on the Jets because, they didn't have an interception last year and other reasons. Listen, their quarterback is still Geno Smith. So let's not, we got to pump the brakes a little bit on how much we think they're going to do. But I think if you're a Jets fan, you finally got to look at it and be like, you know what, we might be trying to do something here, and hey, good for them.
Well, yeah. So they got some defensive players, like you said. That tight end out of Oregon was legit, and then they got a couple of Indiana players. You remember the Indiana defense was really good. They picked up a cornerback from Indiana. They also got Cade Klubnik from Clemson as a quarterback. And they picked him up in the 4th round. I don't know. I mean, Cade Klubnik, I know he was supposed to have a Heisman type year, and it didn't quite work out for him this year, but I think he still has some NFL potential. And with Geno Smith there, who knows? Cade might get in the game, week 2, week 3, depending on how poorly Geno's working on it. But you're right. The Jets, and I also heard the Cowboys, they were kind of raving about the Cowboys draft as well. But yeah, the Jets, they seem to be doing some things right. We'll see how it works out for them, but Geno Smith could be the X factor there for them either way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that was good. In another team we like to just bag on, and I hate to say this because it's the Cowboys and it's Ohio State.
Yeah.
But the Cowboys getting Caleb Downs in the 11th pick, that's a pretty good pickup for them. I mean, he was really, really good I think he was at Alabama to start with, and he went to Ohio State. Listen, that's pretty good.
They had a lot of defensive players.
Yeah, they did. But listen, they need to work on their defense. Like their offense, we joke Dak only plays well when they're winning big or down big. But that defense was not good last year. I mean, the Bears scored a ton of points on them, stuff like that. So, I mean, I think the Cowboys pretty good with that. The funniest thing that happened in the first round is Mekhi Lemon, receiver from USC, was on the phone with Pittsburgh Steelers. They said, hey, we're going to call you. I mean, we're going to draft you. As they're on the phone with him, the Eagles are trying to call him because the Eagles jumped the Steelers with a trade and drafted him.
Yeah.
Listen, of all the teams to jump for Philly, besides maybe the NFC East teams, it's hilarious that they jumped to the team in their state in Pittsburgh get their thing. Now, this guy, Mekhi Lemon, hey, great talent out of USC. Strange dude with his interviews. I don't know if you've seen some of his interviews, but
no, is he a little off? Really?
He's like almost too laid back. It's weird. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how he does there. But he was obviously really good with USC. But the fact that he was on the phone with the Steelers and the Eagles said, nope, just kidding. We're going to jump you and take you, I think is pretty funny.
Are you looking at the Eagles picks right now by chance? Just because
I was just in the first round. So let's go back a page.
If you go to the 7th round Eagles, and I know it's the 7th round, there's a guy, Uar Bernard, defensive tackle. You know where he went to college?
It says no college.
No college. So you're telling me that we have a Heisman finalist who doesn't get drafted. We have a guy that doesn't play college football that got drafted. Is that what you're telling me?
Who is this guy? All right, we got to look this up.
You can't even click on his name. It's not available. He doesn't exist. Uar Bernard.
He's a Nigerian professional football defensive tackle. Okay. He's from Nigeria.
Okay. I didn't know they had football over there.
I know. Before the 2026 NFL Draft, he participated in the International Player Pathway Pro Day in the front of NFL scouts.
Okay.
6 foot, 4.5 inches, 306 pounds, with just 6% body fat.
What? He's 300 pounds, 6% body fat.
Listen, I'm not a huge dude, but that's less body fat than I have.
That's not very.
He ran a 4.6 340, had a 39-inch vertical, and a broad jump of 10 feet 10 inches. Holy cow!
He's an athlete. Wow.
Despite his extraordinary athleticism, Bernard has yet to play a single snap of organized football in his life.
And he went over. The Eagles are just taking a guy that freak athlete.
But you know what? You get to that part of the draft, right? And you do. Yeah. You take flyers on guys, right?
Yep.
Sometimes you do it because you know somebody. I mean, I remember in the Major League Baseball draft one time, the only reason Mike Piazza was drafted by the Dodgers is because Tommy Lasorda was his godfather or something along those lines. Knew his dad, something along those lines. Did it as a favor for the family. Well, Mike Piazza ended up being a Hall of Famer. So,
worked out okay.
It worked out okay for the Dodgers and then the Mets. You never know. I mean, Tom Brady was taken in the 7th round. Now, this obviously is more of a long shot, but hey,
the Eagles don't need a ton of help. They don't. They have a lot of good players. They have a really strong base. So, hey, why not reach out to this crazy athlete from another country and say, hey, let's see if we can teach you how to play some football.
Yeah, speaking of the Eagles draft, they took Cole Payton. Again, I never heard of him. He's a quarterback at North Dakota State. He got drafted. Pavia did not.
Right.
So, I mean, the
Makes you
quarterbacks that
wonder.
were drafted here, we'll go through here. I'll look it up here. But I mean, yeah, it just shows you that maybe the attitude was too much.
I think so. For him, yes. Yeah, I think so. I agree.
Yeah, let's see if I can pull this up here. So,
Just
no, I don't want to. I don't. Oh, shoot, that's the Athletic. I can't. I don't want to pay for the Athletic. So,
no, I won't do that.
all right, here we go. All right, so obviously Mendoza went number 1 to the Raiders. I think that was a good one. The one that surprised me is the one that later on, Ty Simpson to the Rams. Now, I understand this. He's not going to play right away. He probably won't even play for a couple of years. So
Right.
I guess the Rams are thinking, we put him behind Matt Stafford and he'll learn a little bit.
Yep.
But 12th or 13th overall, I can't remember what it was. But is that really what you want to do with your first round pick, to pick a guy that you think might be good in 2 or 3 years? Because Stafford, we're like, is he going to retire this year? He won the MVP, but he just signed an extension. I know that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play all those years, but he signed an extension. He's definitely playing next year. And if he plays well again next year, I won't be surprised if he does it again. And the Rams are in that spot too, where I think they're older. Obviously Matthew Stafford's older. Their time to win is like right now. So wouldn't you want to get pieces that's going to help you win right now? Now, you want to take Ty Simpson in the second round, maybe, or third if he's still there, which I don't think he would have been. But if Ty Simpson doesn't play for Alabama, do you think he gets drafted where he got drafted?
Well, that's the question. If he's playing for, I'm just going to throw out a team like Virginia or somebody like that, same numbers and everything, maybe not. But you're right, they take him, and you're right. The Rams are super close to, like, they're right there on making the Super Bowl contenders. You'll put together a piece that you're missing, a lineman, a defensive back, something like that, because I'm looking at their draft and they got Simpson, obviously. Then they went with a tight end. Do they really need a tight end that bad to get to the Super Bowl? Then they went with an offensive tackle. I think they're going to get a good pick in their 6th round with C.J. Daniels from Miami, the wide receiver. I think that's going to be a little bit of a steal for them, but they're not dying for wide receivers there with the Rams. But you're right. I'm just looking at their picks going, this is a team that's so close to possibly winning a Super Bowl, making a Super Bowl run, and they're taking guys for their future. This sounds like something the Raiders would do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's true. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense with taking him in that pick, even if you think he's going to be a guy that can learn under Stafford, which, he might be able to. Stafford's, from all accounts, is a really good dude, good clubhouse guy, good, guy for your locker room. But I just don't see it. I don't get it. I don't understand why they did that. But who knows? This is one of those things where they didn't ask me, they didn't call me, to do that. So, I don't know. I don't really get it. That's the one that puzzled me the most. Carson Beck going in, there wasn't one picked in the second round. So, I mean, you go from, quarterbacks getting drafted out the rear end, in these first rounds, overdrafting these guys, to
2 guys in the first round.
2 guys in the first round, and I don't understand it.
You don't see another quarterback for a while. So
yeah, I mean, Carson Beck goes to the Cardinals. So, I don't.
Who drafted a quarterback? We mentioned it real quick. I think who drafted a quarterback that already has like 5 quarterbacks on the roster? The Browns.
Right.
They took the dude from Arkansas. What are you doing? You have 5 guys over there.
What is what?
I know.
If you can figure out what the Browns are doing, you can let everybody know, because I don't think anybody really understands what the Browns are doing. It doesn't make any sense. They already have a crowded one. Are you saying? I mean, you don't trust Shadur Sanders? You don't trust? I mean,
Dylan
Gabriel's getting lost in this whole thing. Like, yeah, Deshaun Watson. There's no way that dude becomes anything good. Like, what is going on with that program? I mean, if you're a Browns fan, you got to be like, what is going on? what is absolutely going on.
Take a chance on someone from Nigeria who's never played football. Over another quarterback. I don't hate their first couple of picks. They got an offensive tackle. He's really good out of Utah. Then they get the wide receiver from A&M. I'm like, okay. But then it just kind of went weird, I guess. They picked up some defensive players, which I don't really think they don't need a whole lot of help on defense. But, man, that quarterback pick was really confusing. Like, you have several guys on that roster. You're good for quarterbacks for like 10 years. Really, if Deshaun Watson ever plays again, you got 3 other guys sitting there.
Right. I don't get at all what they're trying to do there. So, who knows? But yeah, that Drew Aller to the Steelers. Like, listen, Drew Aller going into last year, you thought, he might be a guy that could be really good in the NFL. And then he really struggled, got injured, at the end of the year there. So, hey, I've seen Steelers do some things with quarterbacks that have been good. I.e. Ben Roethlisberger, but Drew Aller, you think he's worth that?
Well, is Drew, he's a 3rd-round pick, but they do need somebody. I'm assuming Aaron Rodgers is coming back for another year. He's going to be like 65 now. But if Drew Aller's not much younger than him, I don't feel like. But I think if he could learn a little bit from Rodgers, sit behind him, like you said, we've talked about this. I don't think Rodgers is a great mentor, but maybe he can pick something up. That pick doesn't surprise me as much as the Browns pick, because the Steelers do need somebody over there running the show, because Rodgers is on his last leg. He's wearing his time out for sure. But like you said, the Steelers have done some magic things with coaches and quarterbacks over there, so who knows what's going to happen on that.
Yeah, and I think this is the year, especially with the draft, that it's amazing to me the quarterbacks that came into last year, right? That we thought, these guys are studs. They're going to be really, really good. They could be at the top of the draft. You think about it, nobody. If you told me at the beginning of last year that Fernando Mendoza was going to win the Heisman, obviously Indiana win the national championship, and he would pick number 1, I think you were crazy. Like, I think most people would say Ty Simpson. Drew Aller was obviously getting a lot of conversation. Carson Beck, we were trying to figure out what he was going to be. The other one that we had to think, and we both thought he was going to be really good and help his team win a lot. We both had this team in the playoffs, the college football playoffs, with Clay Klubnik. We thought he was going to be really good, and he ends up in the 4th round to the Jets. Now, we'll see. We'll see how good he is, but I that's one of those that maybe I don't hate, because I think he has potential. I don't know if he's going to be great. I don't know, but listen, you could do worse, I guess, but I don't know. How good is that going to get him be? Because we really thought he was going to be good. We thought he was going to be a Heisman, chance to be the Heisman guy last year. That obviously didn't pan out, and I don't know. I don't know where the best way to go with this is for them, because I just don't know how good he's going to be, because he really struggled last year.
Well, and Clemson, I think I'd pick Clemson. A lot of people pick Clemson to make a run, maybe at a national title, and they just could not get things together. Rumor was they had all these NFL guys on defense, and they had this, Klubnik was back. He had a pretty good year the year before. And another quarterback that we thought was Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. We thought that they were just going to go out and just throw the ball all over the place and do whatever they wanted, and their coach ends up getting fired. Nussmeier did get drafted. I think he went to the Chiefs, but he went late, 6th or 7th round. So he's going to sit there behind Patrick Mahomes and learn some stuff probably. And I don't think that's probably a good place for him. But, I think Klubnik and Nussmeier, I think they have pro potential, but they need to be with the right coaches. They need to be with the right system. They're going to need some coaching to get them prepared for the NFL. I think guys like Mendoza and maybe Ty Simpson are ahead of them already and might be able to step in there and play a little quicker than them. But I think they have potential, so I don't hate taking them late in the game. But you're right; they had such high hopes in college that it just never panned out. So who knows? Tom Brady's always the one we'll go back to. Like, barely played in college, didn't even start really all that much. Was sitting the bench in '97 for the national title, and then he turned out pretty good.
Yeah, and then you look at that, Garrett Nussmeier was the last quarterback taken at number 249. Right before him was Baron Morton out of Texas Tech. The one that was before him, 11 spots before him, was Ethan Kalakmanis. I can never pronounce the name. I think he was at Minnesota to start with. He ended up at Rutgers, I think. Yeah. I'm guessing. I know he ended up at Rutgers. I think he started at Minnesota. I may be wrong, but I think he did. That guy got drafted. That guy got drafted, and Pavia did not get drafted. Right. So, we started our podcast talking about Pavia and him not being drafted, and not to be like the main topic of this, but it just shows you how everything matters. Everything matters in what you do. It's how you play. It's how you act. And people were, I really do. We talked about this. People were put off by that. Tell me why the Commanders would take Ethan
Kalakmanis, I think you're right.
Yeah, from Rutgers over Pavia. Now, the Morton from Texas Tech, I understand that because obviously he was really, really good for Texas Tech last year. And Garrett Nussmeier showed it the year before. Right. He struggled last year, but he showed it the year before with LSU. And, these other ones, Aller has played well. Carson Beck has played well. Even the kid from Arkansas was pretty good. Taylor Green. I mean, those guys. The North Dakota State. Listen, I know it's a little bit of flyer, but North Dakota State's pretty flipping good in the FCS. So, Cute Klubnik had been good too. So I understand all those picks, but the one that baffles me is you're taking a dude from Rutgers, which again, not anything on Rutgers, but this guy wasn't great, over Pavia. I mean, I think that tells you all you need to know right there, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like they're looking at the Rutgers guy going, okay, we got to work on his footwork or his release, or maybe he just needs to learn how to read defenses a little bit better. That's all. But is he coachable? Maybe coaches said some good things about him. They saw film and thought, you know what, this is a guy we can work with. But we're not dealing with that attitude from Pavia. Like, yeah, he's athletic. Yeah, he can make plays. Yeah, but he doesn't seem coachable. He doesn't seem like a good locker room guy. So when he comes out and he throws a temper tantrum about the Heisman and he shows off all this stuff, you made a good point. You're not somebody like Lamar Jackson who can get away with being that confident, cocky, fine line there. You don't have those type of skills. You're not that guy. You're not Peyton Manning. Like, you're not that guy coming out of college. You're a guy that might get drafted if you do all the things right and if you show that you can be coachable and be a good locker room guy. But you're right. He showed all of that stuff is not his thing. So they went a different route. They'll take a guy that's coachable versus a guy that might have an attitude. So, yeah, Pavia might end up – the UFL's going on right now. I don't know. He'll end up there. I don't know.
That's what you said.
That might bring some attention to the UFL.
Listen, if you were a guy like that, okay, if you were a guy that didn't get drafted, okay, and you're just getting invited to not even sign, just invited to the camp, like – would you look into the UFL, or do you think that's frowned up? I don't want to say frowned upon, but there's not a lot of guys that have signed from the UFL. Like, I think the most people that have been signed from the UFL have been kickers. And if you're a kicker, what better way to show off than kicking in a game and showing your legs? So, that makes a little bit more sense. But, is it a bad thing to go to the UFL? Because some of these guys that don't get drafted, to me, that would make sense to go play in it right now. Go play in it right now. Yes. And I understand that it's more wear and tear in your body, but at this point, you have no wear and tear necessarily coming because you're not playing in the NFL or expected to play in the NFL. So does that, if I'm the UFL, and I understand, I get it to a point where if you're just the UFL and you start signing these guys, is it fair to the people that have been playing for you for the first, 3-4 weeks that you've been playing? Sorry, these guys weren't drafted, so we're going to bring a guy in and you're out of luck. Where's that fine line? But if I'm a guy that's not drafted, I would be like, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to go, especially like a Pavia, right? Screw you. I'm going to go show you right now that I can play. And I understand that's not the best competition, but if you go out and play in something that's outside of college and show them that you can play, that's just more film for you, right? Or are you afraid that you won't play well?
Well, but like you said, you're not playing at all right now. If you don't get picked up by an NFL team, then you're not playing football. You can go sell insurance or whatever these guys do after they get done with college. But if you have an opportunity to go play in the UFL, I think it can only help you and not hurt you. A guy like Pavia would not only bring attention to the UFL, and we've talked about this before, the UFL needs some face. They need a guy that the league can look at and be like, this is our guy, this is him, like the NFL had Tom Brady. Now it's got Patrick Mahomes. It has guys that they can lean on. Pavia might be able to do that in the UFL a little bit, and he can show his skills, and maybe he'll change his attitude a little bit and show that he's coachable. And maybe the UFL coaches will reach out and be like, listen, he's come a long way. He's very good in the locker room. He's learning the game a little bit more, and he's been nothing but great for us. Who knows? Maybe somebody will reach out next year and grab him up. But I think if you're not playing at all, and I think you would agree, like if you had another chance to go back and play some ball, you'd probably take that chance. But maybe his ego's a little bit too much for him.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where, we talked about this when Sanders was drafted, right? And he had that attitude, and they were like, you know what, you need to put your head down and just play, right? And he kind of did, but then he didn't. And I know he got his chance, and he made a Pro Bowl, but obviously the Browns aren't high on him. They wouldn't have drafted, the kid from Arkansas, but. You need to show them that you want to play, right? And whether Sanders is doing that or not, we have our thoughts on that. But like Pavia is now in that situation. Like, do you want to play? And I think he does. But like, how bad do you want to play? Like, is it enough to check your ego and be like, you know what, I'm gonna, take what was given to me and work my butt off and try and work my way up? Because I think if he would do that, there's some talent there and there's some toughness there. That, like a team would be like, yeah, this is a guy you could do a lot worse than having Diego Pavia come off your bench and play in a game. Like he might make some mistakes, but listen, we've seen some of the backups that are in the NFL right now, right? Like, I mean, it doesn't.
Minshew's still out there, probably.
Right? Yeah, there's some guys that are still playing, which good for them, But would you want those guys coming off the bench? And I'm not saying Pavia is great, but like if he had to come off the bench for the Bears or something, I wouldn't hate it. But he needs to swallow his pill and just be like, okay. You know what? That ego got me in trouble. What I said got me in trouble. I need to shut my mouth, work hard, and see if I can make a team. Because if he doesn't, he's not going to. And I think Sanders was in that same boat. And I think Sanders might got a little bit, help because of his name. He was good in college, but he wasn't great. But it's like, at some point, shut up and play, right? And I'm not saying everybody in the world needs to shut up. They can talk about what they want to talk about, but I'm not talking about like world issues. I'm just talking about ego stuff and just that egotistical stuff. And, we always say there's a fine line between cockiness and confidence. Have the confidence, and you got to have a little cockiness in you. But man, it's a little far with Pavia, and it's hurt some of these guys. And I think it's really starting to show.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think Sanders got carried a little bit by his name, but he didn't really I don't feel like he made a bigger deal out of. Well, he got drafted as well, so it's a little bit different. But they did make a big deal out of where he was drafted, but he wasn't
right.
higher as a quarterback. So, but yeah, he gets a little bit of leeway because of who his dad is. But Pavia, you don't have that. Like you didn't win the Heisman Trophy. You took a Vanderbilt team who was bad and made them pretty relevant. But just be happy with what you've done and appreciate that, and then try to work hard at the next level. You didn't win the Heisman. You threw a temper tantrum, and I think that turned some teams off. And now you're not helping yourself anymore by what happened here. Allegedly, I don't know if it's true. I've seen the photo. Maybe you have too, where apparently he had a party, had all 32 NFL teams' hats sitting on a table, waiting to put one of them on when he got the call, and he never got the call. So it's like, I mean, do I feel bad for the guy that didn't get drafted? Kind of, but you know what? You kind of made your own bet. If he would have not, I guarantee you, if he doesn't throw the temper tantrum after the Heisman situation, I think he gets drafted. I think he gets drafted before the Rutgers guy. I think he gets drafted before Garrett Nussmeier. Maybe before Klubnik, too. I mean, I think he gets drafted before all those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's right there. Like, you want to talk, you can't talk about he should have been drafted early, but some of those guys later, yeah, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see, like you said, I think he accepted an invite to the Ravens thing. So it'll be interesting to see what they did. Listen, we got all those grades. We talked about it before. They got all the grades for the draft. I think they're premature. Like I said, come back 5 years from now and see what those drafts are. That'd be the better grade to do. But, it's that, like I said, the NFL draft is that, hope reigns eternal for every team, hoping, they can make a right pick. Most of them, it seemed like we're happy. There's some that are probably a little head scratching, but the NFL draft is done. The next big event comes up mid-May. I just led sometime in mid-May. I don't think they have an exact date yet. It says 7 hours ago that I'm reading this. The schedule is currently slated to be released at 8 p.m. Eastern on May 15th is what I said. So we're a couple weeks out from the next thing. I think the NFL, I'll give them credit. They're doing a really, really good job of spacing things out a little bit, but not too far to keep them in the news all the time. You had the Super Bowl. They had free agency come out. Now you have your draft. They've made that a big deal, and it's been huge. I mean, there was a ton of people at Pittsburgh. And now they're gonna have the schedule release. So you have that in mid-May, and then you start building up. Teams can start doing that. And it helps that schedule release comes out in a couple weeks, because then it gives us a lot of stuff to talk about. But the NFL, they're doing it right. Listen, the NBA, I think, was doing it good for a while. Now they've kind of taken a back seat to the NFL. The NFL they know what they're doing. The marketing that they're doing for this, the way they're spacing things out, they're making a big deal of all the stuff, and it's hooking fans. It's hooking fans, absolutely. And we're not gonna lie. I mean, I'm excited to see when the schedule comes out, because then you start to figure out, this is gonna be a tough stretch, or we could start off 4-0.
Exactly. Yeah. So like you said, the NFL is keeping us interested in football all through the off season. We get a little bit of downtime, and then boom, something big happens. Now we got the draft. That was the big thing. Now we're going to get a little bit of downtime for a couple weeks, but now we got the schedules coming out. We can really dive into each team's schedule. I want to see who the Seahawks are playing. Obviously, our Raiders and Bears, we want to see who they're playing, how they look, how tough is their schedule, how easy is it. Like, we want to see these teams, and we can do our picks, which are going to be completely crazy at first, but then we can start narrowing it down a little bit as it gets closer to August, September football time.
Absolutely, and that's when we get to make picks and then look back at it and be like, we were completely wrong.
Not even close to that.
We know our football. We love our football, but hey, the picks are what it is. So listen, we got a couple weeks before that, but we'll come back next week. I'm sure we'll have some sort of list or something to complain about, or something else. But it's enjoy. The draft is over, so now we get to the OTAs and all that stuff coming up. So we'll come back next week, as we always do. We'll talk football. Love it. Hope you come back too. Until next time, I am Adam.
I'm Tony. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to the Two Bald Guys Sports Podcast with Adam and Tony. Don't forget to check out our partnership with Happy Nuts.